lot of people would probably classify Jalen Hurts' season last year as not good enough. And I think a lot of us would be fair to say that. Yeah. And look, there's a lot of ways to talk about what happened last year with the Eagles. Heard the morning show today discussing it. Yesterday, Brian Dawkins discussing it with the afternoon guys. And we'll get to all of it today. Howard will join us later. Hugh's Clues for a Prize. Big show planned today, including some conspiracy theories coming from college yesterday. But I want to start with something that I've had this in my mind for a while, and we do this. I do this. So I'll call myself out first. We overreact, Hugh. We overreact to things sometimes.
No, not you,
yeah,
Joe.
Yeah, I do it sometimes.
Not you, Joe.
You know what? Sometimes I do it, but I am willing to call myself out first along with everyone else. And let me tell you right now, we, as a city and a fan base, we've overreacted to what happened last year with Jalen Hurts.
What?
Yep, we overreacted.
Oh, no.
No, we have. The way that Jalen Hurts gets talked about now on this station, it has been a complete overreaction to what happened last year. Let me just throw this at you, and then I want you to hear something that was said on WIP yesterday as I throw my pen across the room accidentally. All right, so yesterday on WIP, something was said that drove me up a wall, okay? Yes, last year, let's be real about Jalen Hurts as Hugh hands my pen back. He was not as good as 2022, but he wasn't terrible. Okay, we talk about him now as if he had a bad season. He didn't. We overreacted to the way he played. Okay, down the stretch, he had a clueless head coach changing coordinators. He had a bad knee, and yet, throughout all of that, the Eagles did make the playoffs and have an 11-win season. And let me just point this out because I think we have reacted to the wrong thing. 2 years ago, 2022, Jalen Hurts is a star. We all believe in him, right? The Eagles finished third in the NFL in points scored. Okay? Third in the NFL.
Not bad.
That's pretty darn good. Third in the NFL. Last year, Jalen Hurts is not any good anymore. He took a major step back. The Eagles finished seventh in the NFL in points scored. Okay? Now, let me give you the real issue last season, and it was not the Eagles' offense. The main issue, 2 years ago when they made the Super Bowl, and I know you might want to close your ears for this one, Hugh, because defense doesn't matter. They were 8th in the NFL in points allowed. Last year, they were 30th. We have taken the small issue and made it the big issue. Jalen Hurts was not as good last year, but the defense was the Eagles' biggest issue. Yet yesterday, I'm listening to this, our afternoon show doing their top 11 athletes in Philadelphia. Jack Fritz up, and listen to who he put at number 11.
My eye test, who I think are the 11 best athletes in Philadelphia. Okay?
Right.
And no flyers.
Okay.
Number 11 is Jalen Hurts.
Oh,
Off of eye test alone, Jalen is number 11. He's pretty good. I don't know what he's great at as a quarterback. We'll say winning, I get it. But they did have the biggest collapse in team history for the quote-unquote winning. So, just pure talent-wise, he's never wowed me. I think he's good. I think he's fine. He's at number 11 for me.
This is the baloney that now is on the station. That Jalen Hurts not even a top 10 athlete in the city.
Jack is really leaning into that. I hate Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles.
I don't think he hates him. I just think he's misguided.
Jack hates the Eagles.
He doesn't.
Jack hates the Eagles with a fire of
He's
thousands.
misguided on this.
Jack hates the Eagles.
I don't think he does, but he's misguided on this. The fact that I got to listen to Trey Turner in the middle of that list. Trey Turner's had 3 good months here, and he's been here a year plus. Okay, 3 good months he's had in a Phillies uniform. His OPS is sub 800, and he's ahead of Jalen Hurts, who took this team to a Super Bowl. It's all this stuff. I mean, I love Kyle Schwarber. I think Schwarber is ahead of Hurts on his list. Schwarber's a DH. I mean, holy moly. Hugh, where are you at on this? Because I now believe and I'll include myself towards the end last year because I was critical of Jalen. I think we've overreacted to the way Jalen played.
I don't think so. I think that because what I see when I saw Jalen Hurts play last year, I mean, I still believe in Jalen Hurts. Let me say that first. But I don't think it was an overreaction because for me, the one thing that Jalen Hurts did not do last year that he should have did was adjust. He never adjusted. And I feel strongly that any player, if it's the quarterback, if it's a defensive lineman, whomever, you have to be able to adjust and adapt on the fly. That's what the NFL is to me in a nutshell. You know, you talk about going into halftime and making halftime adjustments that when your team is getting beaten the first half to help you win football games. He didn't do that. Now, whether or not that's on the coach, that remains to be seen. But I think that all the criticism that we have and levied against Jalen are valid because there's a lot that we still don't know. Do I believe Jalen can play? Yes, I do. I really do. And that's why I'm bullish on the 13 wins next year. But he has to show me. Because the one thing that this team didn't do last year really well, and he didn't do really well last year, was adapt. They did not adapt. They did not adjust. And I think that everything that we say about them and everything that we feel about them is legit, because in order to have success in the NFL, and you see it every Sunday, you have to be able to adjust and adapt on the fly. And they didn't do that.
Well, they didn't do that. And Hugh, I would generally agree. I mean, he played worse down the stretch than he did in the beginning of the season. I recognize that. Jalen Hurts did not have a great year. He was way better the year before. But let me just point this out. Like we say, he didn't adjust, okay? I'm just going to bring up one game, a game that was critical in their season, and really the moment that I knew this thing was pretty much dead. Okay? When they lost at home to the Arizona Cardinals.
I knew you was going to say that.
Okay?
They got boat raced.
In that game, Jalen Hurts had a 118.4 passer rating. He had a 78% completion percentage. The Eagles put up 31 points. They lost. That's not on the quarterback. It's not on adjustments by the quarterback. They lost because their defense couldn't stop the Arizona Cardinals. The defense and the coaching were the biggest issues last year. Jalen Hurts was, again, I will acknowledge this because it's reality. He wasn't as good as he was the year before. But he didn't lose that game.
Yeah, but
they lost that game.
And I give you that one, but it still looked at that point though, Joe. And we all were accused of this. They still looked inept, and they still looked lost offensively.
But they didn't. They scored 31 points.
I hear what you're saying. They scored the 31 points, but they still looked lost as an offense. And we knew going into this game, Arizona Cardinals weren't a good football team. That was why that loss hurt more than anything else, because they ran roughshod, to your point. They ran roughshod all over us on the defensive side of the ball. And there was some issues that we had with the defense that there was no doubt it started leaking oil towards the end. But what about that Seattle game? When he came out there, the flu game, the Jordan flu game, where him and AJ decided at the last minute to do their own thing.
Bad.
And games after that. The Tampa Bay game.
Not good. The
Tampa Bay game where you have a quarterback who is rolling out of the pocket and takes a safety.
Not good, but you know what? They did have a lead with 2 minutes to go in the Seattle game.
Yeah, but
defense can let Drew Lock go 90 yards.
No, they did. The defense, there's some issue with the defense, but the quarterback has to play better. No matter what you say about this, Joe, the quarterback has to be the catalyst to make this team better, especially when you talk about all those lumps and warts that they have on the defensive side of the ball. Because guess what they didn't do in this offseason? They went out and got some corners. But for the most part, we're playing with a young defense.
They are.
That's going to have to step up and play better as we go through this season. The offense, all the resources are allocated to the offensive side of the ball.
And the offense wasn't bad last year.
But the offense has to be better.
I agree with you.
And the quarterback has to be held accountable for that.
That's fine. And we can hold them accountable. But 2 years ago, they were third in scoring. They were eighth in points allowed. Last year, they were seventh in scoring, 30th in points allowed. I'm telling you right now, if the Eagles are 25th in scoring, it doesn't matter what Jalen Hurts does. It doesn't matter. If their defense is 25th in the NFL, this is not going to matter.
I think it will.
No, I think I watched Drew Brees go 4 straight years at 7-9 because his defense was the worst in the league.
I think it will, because the one thing that this defense is going to be next year that they weren't this year, well, this year that they weren't last year, is competent.
Yeah, but all right, but they have to stop the other team from scoring.
They have to be smarter, Joe.
But they can be Rhodes scholars. If the other team scores touchdowns,
they have to be Rhodes scholars that understand the assignment. The one thing that Coach, who was the defense coordinator, I'm having a brain fart right here, Vic Fangio. The one thing that Fangio said was, you can't scheme your way out of some bad calls. You got to go back to the bread and butter. What was the bread and butter of this defense last year? Nothing. I agree. Nothing. They stunk, but that's not on Hurts. That it's going to be on Hurts when they don't score enough points to help this defense out. That's how this team is built, Joe. They were seven. They scored enough points that they should have won the division last year. 215-592-9494. Your reaction to all this? I think Jalen Hurts deserves the benefit of that. I think we have overreacted as a fan base. I certainly overreacted late at the end of last season, and now we go into this season. And I'm looking at the guy's track record. He's better than the 11th best athlete in the city. I mean, holy moly. I'm not a top 10 athlete in the city. Jack don't like that. Well, Jack's wrong on this one. We overreacted here. I believe that. Hugh doesn't think we did to the season last year. Can we hear from Brian Baldinger? He was recently on with Robbie talking about Jalen Hurts and an expectation of a return to form here.
I would err on the side that Jalen's going to return to a top form, certainly a top 10 form. I would expect that from him this year. He's got everything that he needs. He's got an elite offensive line. He's got an elite every down running back. He's got a receiving core that's as good and deep as anybody's. There's no reason why he shouldn't go out and ball out with what they have surrounded him with. You can't, Howie, Jeffrey, you can't ask any ownership, GM, coach, you can't ask for anything more than what they've done for Jalen this offseason.
They've given him a lot, certainly on the offensive side. Hopefully the defense holds up its end of the bargain. 215-592-9494.